Good morning to all of you this morning on this beautiful Friday morning. And we apologize for the late start this morning. Y'all know technology works when it works. And so that must mean we're on the right path, especially when your internet goes down right before it's time to start. But I'm excited about what God has for us to share with you on this morning. And I'm glad to see you all already on and excited about locking in this morning. And so I see that there's so many of you who have been sharing and liking our posts. You have been involved in what we've been sharing online, and you have been sharing with others. And so we're just excited about that this morning. And it is day number five, y'all, which means we are doing it. We're doing it. We're getting where we need to be. We're doing what it is that we need to do. And I'm excited about it. So I want you to stay strong. All right. I want you to keep climbing. I want you to keep on pushing because God has something in store for us. And even when we get to the end of this time of fasting, hopefully we'll be able to get some testimonies of some things that God has shown you, some things that God has done, some doors that God has opened, some revelations that God may have given. And we want to share those things so that God will get the glory out of it. All right. So again, this morning, we are in day number 5. Drum roll, please. All right. So our fasting focus for this morning is momentum in my maturity. I want you to let that soak in. Momentum in my maturity. Now, this is vitally important because in order to experience the good life that God intended, all right, it requires more than grace. It also requires growth. And Main Street, you all know that I've said this multiple times, and it bears saying again that God has literally maxed us out on everything that he can give us just by grace. The next level for us as believers is getting into a place where God can bless us based on our growth, right? It's not necessarily about just asking God to bless me. It's about becoming the type of person that God can bless. There are certain blessings that require growth. There's certain blessings and opportunities that are reserved for grown folks. All right. I want you to hear what I'm saying. There are certain blessings and there are certain opportunities that are reserved for grown folks. And when I say grown folks is a metaphor that I'm using for maturity. All right. And I've heard people say this, how every generation gets smarter, every generation gets wiser. But I found that generations get wiser, but in many instances, weaker. Right? Because we're smarter, we have more information, but sometimes wisdom does not always connect with the knowledge that we have. And so we have some persons who are younger, they're physically strong, right? They're physically strong, but they're mentally weak, right? It's a different type of strength. I can lift weights with my muscles, but what happens when you have a crisis in your life? Can you manage and can you handle that? And so those things come in line with maturing and growing in life. And so in order to create momentum, it requires more than a mindset. It requires more than mood management. It also requires maturity. Okay. And maturity essentially is the internal development. Notice I use that word internal. It is internal development required to sustain external growth. It's internal. You have to be anchored on the inside. That's what maturity does. Maturity helps you to process things as they should be, regardless to how they look on the surface. Maturity. Maturity tells you that everything that glitters ain't gold. Maturity tells you that everybody laughing in your face is not because they're happy to see you. Maturity tells you that time reveals what quick decisions conceal. That's what maturity tells you, right? And so when we're talking about this momentum in our maturity, you have to understand that many of the decisions that we've made, many of the challenges that we've had in life, we can trace them back to decisions we made in states of immaturity. Now, I want to say this because I want to make sure we grasp this, that maturity is not an automatic result of older age, because we know some people who are older and still do foolish stuff, right? So it's not a matter of saying, well, because I'm older, I'm more mature now. That doesn't mean that. Maturity is not about what you go through. It's about what you grow through. Hope you hear what I'm saying. Maturity, I'm going to say it again, is not about what you go through. It's about what you grow through. It's not about just spending time on the planet and calendars passing in your life. It's not just going. It's a lot of stuff that we've gone through. We've heard in our testimonies. We've gone through this. We've gone through that. But the question is, did you grow through it? What do you know on the backside of it that you didn't know on the front side? Was your question always, when do I get out of it? Or what do I get out of it? And I need us to understand that growth and maturity is not automatic. It has to be intentional. I don't just automatically grow. I automatically grow physically, but to grow emotionally, I got to be intentional. To grow spiritually, I have to be intentional. To grow occupationally, to grow financially, I have to be intentional. Listen, I was looking at something the other day, and this blew my mind. And this man that I listened to, his name is Dr. Myron Golden, and he said some, y'all, that messed me up, right? And this ain't even in my script, but that's all right. He said something that messed me up. But he gave 3 scientific processes. He said, this is the difference between growing in life and falling off in life. He said these 3 things, 3 scientific laws. So y'all stay with me and I'm going to make it as plain as I can. He said, first of all, there's the law of inertia, the law of inertia. Now, you ain't got to repeat that because it ain't going to help you at all. All right. But the law of inertia says this, that nothing moves until you move it. Scientific. You can look it up if you want to. Scientific. Nothing moves unless you move it. So that means that an object will stay at rest until something moves it or pushes it to make it go somewhere else, to move it out of that position. Nothing moves unless it's moved. That's the law of inertia. But then he said the second part of that is energy. Energy is neutral. Energy is stored ability, right? So your energy that you have, the vitality that you have in yourself is stored up. It's dormant. And energy goes wherever you put it. Lord have mercy. And when he was saying this, the Lord was just showing me how this corresponds with the word. Energy goes wherever you put it. So wherever you put your energy, that's where you will see movement and results. So if your energy is always in foolishness, then you're going to see more foolishness in your life. Right? Wherever your treasure is, wherever your heart is, that's where your treasure will be also. Whatever man soweth, that shall he also reap. The seed of a thing produces what comes after it. The life of everything is in the seed. So wherever I put my energy, that's where I will see results. So if my energy is always in negativity, I'm going to reap a harvest of more negativity. All right. So I'm going to clear it up. The law of inertia. Nothing moves until I move it. As it relates to energy, it's neutral. Wherever I put it is where I see results. But here's the third one that really came together. It's the law of atrophy. Atrophy. All right. And here's what that means. That the natural inclination of anything is to automatically go towards decay if you don't do something with it. I said, wow. What do you mean? That the natural default of your body, of your house, your yard, anything in life, that the default of everything in life, all of the stuff that we see in the natural, is to automatically move towards decay if you don't do anything with it. So here's what that looks like. If you've ever seen a person who's lost access or the ability to utilize their legs, atrophy sets up where now their legs begin to get smaller, the muscles begin to deteriorate because they're not using them. Atrophy. If you have a house and you abandon the house, nobody's living there, nobody's taking care of it, nobody's dealing with it, that house will come to decay because you're not doing anything with it. It'll automatically decay. So how's this house falling apart and tearing up and nobody's living there? Because the natural default is to decay, right? So here's what he says. So if nothing moves until you move it, energy is neutral. You have to put it somewhere to get a result. And if you do nothing, the default is chaos and for the thing to fall apart. That means simply this, that in order to make your life better, you have to do something. But in order to make your life worse, all you have to do is do nothing. Good God Almighty. In order to make your life better, in order to grow in the things of God, you got to do something. But in order for your life to automatically degrade and decay and go towards chaos, all you have to do is do nothing. And so what that says to us is, if we want to build momentum in our maturity, it's going to require us to do something. And as God is blessing us, as God is opening doors, as God is moving us forward, as God is building momentum in our lives, we have to recognize that we have to have maturity tied to momentum. Because if God gives you momentum and you don't have maturity, blessings turn into burdens. I want you to think about it. That takes a level of maturity. If you have a very, very fast car, and you're one of those type of people that just have a need for speed, you got a heavy foot, you have an immature mindset as a result to the power of this car, you're going to hurt yourself and other people. So even though it's a blessing to have this extremely fast car, immaturity puts you in a position where now you are a danger to yourself and others. We've been talking about spiritual gifts. And when you look at all of those spiritual gifts, if either of those spiritual gifts are active in an immature person, in many instances, they do more damage than good. I want y'all to listen and hear what I'm saying. And so then, what God told me specifically as it relates to momentum in our maturity is that we have to understand that if we don't develop maturity within ourselves, that if that maturity does not rise up in us, we make ourselves vulnerable to the attacks of the enemy. See, some stuff is not about the enemy having power over your life, because he doesn't. But what the enemy has mastered is how to exploit immaturity. Okay, I'm going to help you. First of all, 3 things I want to tell you about this. Immature people, number one, are easily influenced. Easily influenced. Because immature people typically lack discernment. And you need discernment to decide what to receive and what to reject. So if you're immature, it's easy for the enemy to exploit you because you don't know what you should receive and what you should reject. So look at it this way. Look at it this way. Your immune system in your body helps to keep you healthy by fighting infection. That's what your immune system does. So when your immune system is down, you're easily infected by everything in the air. I want you to see the imagery. Well, discernment is your spiritual immune system. And when you lack discernment, you are easily affected and infected by almost everything. Y'all know people that don't have discernment. Y'all see them all the time. That's why our pickers are off sometimes as it comes to relationship, because we don't have discernment. Discernment will help you know the difference between good and God. Discernment helps you know the difference between help and somebody that got a hook in the help. So when you accept their help, now they got you on the hook. Discernment helps you understand that. A person who is immature is easily influenced. So you don't have that spiritual discernment to fight off things that you shouldn't receive. So that means you're affected by every opinion. Every negative statement makes you sick. You follow every trend. You let other people determine your priorities. You need somebody to co-sign on every decision you make. Indecisive. You're afraid to make a decision because you don't want to be responsible for the results. And the enemy always has somebody around you that'll tell you what to do, even if it's wrong. And when immaturity rears its head, easily influenced, eventually you become addicted to direction, not from God, but from people. I want to say that again to make sure you get it. When and if and when your immaturity rears its head in the form of being easily influenced, you become addicted to direction, not from God, but from people, which makes it extremely easy for you to be misled. Easily influenced. Not having that internal anchor, the maturity on the inside to say, I'm not doing that. I hear what you're saying, but that ain't true. Even when it comes to stuff that people say about you. So immature people are easily influenced. Here's a good one, but they're also easily instigated. Now, y'all know how I used to be in school, the instigators. You got two people that really don't want to fight, but you got the instigators. They want to see a show, right? And so they go tell this person, she said something about you, or he said something about you. And then you draw that invisible line and say, well, if you step over this line, I'm talking about they just trying to get some mess started. And so, and then when they see the dirt done died down and the smoke done died down, then they go kick it up again. Well, she was still talking about you yesterday. She said something about, she was talking about your edges. Y'all know for some reason women have a problem with folks talking about their edges. I don't know what it is with edges. In this day, she was talking about your edges. Oh no, she didn't. Here you go. Now we're ready to go with it. You see what I'm saying? Instigate, just keeping stuff up all the time. Well, when you are immature, you lack maturity, you easily instigate it, which means other people's input controls your actions. Other people's input controls your actions. Let me say it this way. Nobody should be able to make you act a fool, because anyone who can make you do anything is your master. Let me say it again. I need you to get it. Nobody should be able to make you act the fool. The implication of somebody making you act the fool means someone else has power over you. If they can make you act the fool, that means they're your master. And when you lack immaturity, you like the puppet on the end of people's strings, and they do stuff to push your buttons so they can see the show. Listen, y'all, in your states and days of immaturity, you don't know how many days that you were just entertainment for people who were pressing your buttons to watch you dance. Watch, when I say this, she gonna go all the way off. When he do this, he gonna lose it. And they press the buttons just so they can watch the show. When you easily instigate it, you easily offended. When you easily instigate it, you're extremely defensive, even about small stuff. When you easily instigate it, you are easily triggered by the things around you. And your buttons should never be external. They should be controlled internally. And if people can just walk up and whatever they say pushes you to act, even without thinking, that is a sign that you lack maturity. But even then, y'all, if you easily instigate it, you are also easily manipulated. So people know how to play with your emotions to get you to make moves many times that don't benefit you at all. It just benefits them. And if you easily instigate it, if you easily manipulate it, the enemy doesn't have to destroy your destiny. All he has to do is push your buttons through offense, pride, and pettiness, and he can direct your destiny. He cannot change what God is sending you, but he can frustrate you through your emotions to the point where you get off the path and never make it to where you're supposed to be. I've had somebody say multiple times, well, predestination says that whatever God wants to do is going to happen in your life. No, that's not true in all instances. Now, there's some things that are going to happen. When it's time for you to die, you're going to die. I don't care how healthy you are. When it's time for you to leave it, you're going to leave it. You don't determine when you're born. God does, right? But when it comes to predestination, all that means is God established your destination beforehand. But your decisions determine whether or not you make it to your destination. So we are predestined to be who God has called us to be. But our daily decisions determine whether or not we get there, because the will of God is not automatic in terms of how it manifests in our lives. And I kind of keep saying this stuff because faith cometh by hearing, meaning I got to keep saying it. The will of God in our lives is not just automatic, because the Bible says that God wishes that none would perish, but that all would come to repentance. But it also says that hell is enlarging itself, which means there's still people going to hell more and more every day. So if the will of God was automatic, nobody would go to hell. So why do people go to hell? Because they choose to. Somebody had said to me multiple times, and I heard it again several weeks ago, why would a loving God send me to hell? He won't. You send yourself to hell. That's like asking, why would the government or why would the legal system send you to prison? Because the punishment is tied to the law. The punishment is tied to the act. God, listen, y'all, some of us think, well, God, he punishing me for what I did. No, the punishment for what you did is tied to the action itself. God ain't got to create no new stuff. If you rob somebody, you're going to jail. God didn't have to do that. God didn't have to say, you're getting 20 years for that. God don't have to do that. If you don't eat right, the consequences are going to show up in your body. It's not God making that stuff, arranging that stuff to make it what it is to hurt you. Lord, I need a miracle. No, you don't. You need a meal plan. I can't hear nobody. The doctor said, stop eating all that salt, stop eating all that sugar. And I'm hoping that during this fast, we're resetting some of those things in our bodies. The Lord, the Lord he punishing me. The devil got my cholesterol sky high. No, he don't. Them pork chop sandwiches you've been eating got your cholesterol sky high. Not God and not the devil. I need y'all to help me in here. And it's amazing how we need so many miracles when it comes to certain things, when a lot of these things are within our control. If we follow principles, we won't need so many miracles. I want y'all to hear what I'm saying. And so then, if you lack maturity, I'm gonna wrap up. If you lack maturity, you're easily influenced. You're depending on people to co-sign on what God said, because you need somebody else to say something, because you're afraid to move forward, and everything around you is just moving you everywhere. You're infected by everything around you. You're easily instigated. People just push your buttons and just make you dance like a puppet on the stage. But then if you're immature, you're extremely impulsive, meaning you act before you think on impulse. And I thank God maturity tells you that usually your first thought is not the right response. Maturity tells you that. Your first thought, okay, let me give y'all some wisdom. We're going to wrap up. I'm going to give y'all some wisdom. If your first thought, if somebody says something happens in your life, somebody says something that rubs you the wrong way, usually, again, your first thought is not the right response. So wisdom says, maturity says, even though this is what came to mind, this is what I want to say, wait and process this before I say something. So it's respond instead of react. Because even if in that instance, your first thought was the right response, you can still say it after you thought about it. You can still release it after you process it. But words are like bullets in a gun. Once they come out, ain't no taking them back. You done said a whole lot of stuff impulsively that you wish you could take back. You said some stuff out of hurt and pain to people that you know you shouldn't have said now on the backside. But if you would have just hushed and held it for a little while longer and thought that thing through and make sure that what came to my mind, did this come from my feelings or did this come from the word? Maturity helps you to put the brakes on so that what I release is the right thing. Okay, just know this. What you feel is real, but it's not always right. Your feelings are, how can I say this? Your feelings are not always reliable. That's the easiest way to say it. They are relevant. You're legal to have those feelings, but they're not reliable. They're indicators, not dictators. Your feelings are valid, but not always reliable. And so what God is saying to us in order to move forward in our maturity is having a level of discernment that helps us to process what's going on around us and determining internally how it should affect us, and then making moves based on wisdom. So we don't just go to the next level. We have to grow to it. So here's our prayer for today. Father, open my eyes to see beyond what it looks like, to move beyond and see beyond what it feels like. But give me the discernment and the maturity to recognize it as you see it and respond accordingly. That's what our prayer is. God, open my eyes to look beyond what it looks like, but help me to see it through the eyes of discernment and maturity so that I recognize it as you see it and respond accordingly. And God is going to get the glory out of your life. All right? Listen, y'all. I love you all. Stay strong. Help is on the way. God is blessing us. He's opening doors for us. But today, focus on what you need to do to develop momentum in your maturity. God bless you, and we will see you in the morning.